Apple's iPhone 12 event is only 3 months away, and all of the leaks and rumors that have been circulating for the past year are finally starting to get wrapped up. So what I'm going to do in this video is try to make sense of all of them in terms of which models we should expect, which features, and of course the release date. Now before we begin, I want to remind you guys that Apple doesn't have to go all out to sell a ton of iPhones. They simply need to change just enough to make the new iPhones feel different, yet up to date with the latest technology, and people will swarm to buy them. That's why they gave the iPhone 11 Pro the controversial triple camera bump. Some people hated it, but one thing's for sure, you can't mistake it for any other iPhone, and that's what gets people to upgrade. So this year, with the iPhone 12 lineup, Apple simply has to change the design enough to make it instantly stand out. And the way they're going to achieve that is by flattening the edges, similar to the iPhone 5 design. But I myself personally think that it'll be a more subtle change, so not quite as boxy as the iPad Pro. And that's it. That's the only exterior change that they need to make this year, so they can keep the same camera bumps as the iPhone 11 lineup, and they can keep the same old Lightning port, and they'll still sell a ton of phones, because if you see an iPhone with flat edges and a notch, you'll know that it's an iPhone 12. But of course, they're still gonna have to make some internal changes, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But for now, I want to get into the lineup that we should expect and explain why it's such a genius idea. A lot of people were surprised to see that the iPhone 11 was $50 cheaper than the iPhone XR, and it didn't really make sense until now. The base model iPhone 12 is actually rumored to start at an even cheaper $650, and you might ask, how the heck can they get the price so low, and why? The reason for that is because the new iPhone 12 is gonna have a smaller 5.4-inch display, which makes it cheaper to produce, and they'll actually offer a plus-sized iPhone 12 model, which will be identical in specs, but have a 6.1-inch display for $750, which is ironically the same exact size and price as the iPhone XR at launch. This is a genius move because those who don't want a small 5.4-inch display have the option of paying $100 more for the Max model, instead of having to go for one of the more expensive Pro models. And speaking of those, the iPhone 12 Pro is rumored to also get a 6.1-inch display, and the Pro Max model will get a 6.7-inch display. This actually makes the most sense because Apple will only have 3 display sizes for a total of 4 iPhone models, making it cheaper to manufacture compared to having 4 different sizes. Now for that base 5.4-inch model, it could actually share the same exact body as the iPhone SE, except without the home button and with a notch, bringing that 4.7-inch display size up to 5.4 inches, so there are even less manufacturing costs for Apple, leading to the new low price of only $650. Now I don't know if you guys remember all of those leaks about the iPhone SE coming with Face ID, a notch, and an OLED display. Well, it seems like those leaks were actually the 5.4-inch iPhone 12, so this points to every iPhone in the 2020 lineup finally getting an OLED display. And just like before, we can expect every single iPhone this year to come with the new 5nm A14 Bionic chip, which will be incredibly powerful. We can also expect the entire lineup to start with 128GB of base storage, and this would make sense because it's easier and cheaper to mass produce that base storage size for the entire lineup, just like they've already done for the iPad Pro. Lots of rumors are also pointing to the iPhone 12 no longer coming with earpods in the box, and in my opinion, this is honestly a good move, since I personally had about 4 or 5 sets of these earpods until I finally gave them away. So this is a clever move by Apple to sell more AirPods. And this would make sense since there's a chance that Apple will introduce a new AirPods model alongside the iPhone 12 at the September event. We should also expect to get the same 5-watt charger in the box with the base models, unlike the new 18-watt fast charger that comes with the iPhone 11 Pro. And before we move on to specifically talking about the Pro models, I want to mention that we should expect the same exact 4 gigs of RAM on the lower end iPhone 12 and 12 Max, as well as the same dual cameras as the iPhone 11. Don't expect any other major changes like smaller bezels or a smaller notch, because remember, Apple is already giving it a new square edge design and 128 gigs of storage at a great price. There's no reason for them to drastically change anything else on the exterior, and don't forget, there's also going to be some new software features as well to help sweeten the deal. Now before we get into the iPhone 12 Pro models, I want to mention that we finally got our all-over premium Apple product pattern t-shirt, updated for 2020 with subtle icons like AirPods Pro, the new Mac Pro, the Pro Display XDR, and even the new iPad Pro with the square camera bump. So if you guys want to help support us, you can buy a t-shirt right below this video in our Teespring merch shelf. Now onto the Pro models, we should expect a brand new midnight blue color. Now you may have seen the rumor that we won't get an LTPO display on an iPhone until 2021, which possibly means that we won't get a high refresh rate 120Hz display. But keep in mind that Apple doesn't necessarily need that tech to get a high refresh rate display, since the 10.5-inch iPad Pro was the first Apple device to get a 120Hz display back in 2017. If Apple doesn't add a 120Hz display on the iPhone 12 Pro this year, they're in trouble, because basically every other Android phone already has a high refresh rate display. And the reason for LTPO next year would be to help save battery life and maybe even add an always-on display feature. Rumors are also pointing to a new display with 10-bit color depth, but I don't expect it to get much brighter since the iPhone 11 Pro is already incredibly bright. The iPhone 12 Pro Max model is rumored to get a larger 6.7-inch display, possibly with slimmer bezels and a smaller notch, but they'll most likely have to make the phone itself a little bit larger to fit that display. It will most likely also come with 5G, which I personally don't care about at all since 4G is fast enough on my iPhone 11 Pro. But for the new iPhone 12 lineup, the millimeter wave 5G tech will probably only come on the Pro models. And the cheaper iPhone 12 models might simply get the sub-6 5G, which is more like faster 4G instead of real 5G. There's a chance that the Pro models will also come with the same LiDAR scanner that came on the 2020 iPad Pro. Now you might be asking, what's the point of that scanner? Well, it seems as though Apple will have some surprises for us in terms of this new sensor at their WWDC event on June 22nd. And once again, we should expect to see the same Lightning port as before, so no USB-C port this year. And finally, more rumors are pointing to the Pro models getting bumped up to 6GB of RAM alongside the new 128GB base storage at the same prices as last year, $1,000 for the Pro and $1,100 for the Pro Max. Now in terms of when we should expect the release date, some new rumors are showing that these iPhones will be getting delayed, pointing to a Q4 release date. But don't freak out, Q4 actually starts in October, just 3 weeks after the usual September event date. So if we do get delays, it'll most likely be like the iPhone XR, which came out on October 26th, and it absolutely shouldn't be any worse than the iPhone X, which came out on November 3rd. And as far as the date of the iPhone event itself, that absolutely won't get delayed, and it's always been on either a Tuesday or a Wednesday, so September the 9th makes the most sense. And more than likely, it'll be an online-only event, just like the upcoming WWDC event on June 22nd, in which that will act as a test run for the online-only September event. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know down in the comments below if you agree with my thoughts on the new features of the iPhone 12. And make sure to check out this brand new t-shirt in our merch shelf right below this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.